Ndamukong Suh, is there smoke or fire here in terms of Ndamukong Suh being part of the Cleveland Browns coming up? We've got conflicting reports, but you know what me and Jeff are going to do. We're going to parse all of that out and get you squared away on the next Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. Your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. Your host, Mr. Garrett Bush, at GBush91. Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, 11 to 1, weekdays on YouTube. Of course, 92.3 The Fan. Saturday mornings, 9 to 12 for the barbershop. Make sure you're checking in all of that. Today's episode is brought to you by BlueNile.com. And Locked On Browns listeners can get $50 off of purchase $500 or more when using the promo code Locked On, all caps, no space. As always, we appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen each and every day, whether it's your favorite podcast platform. Of course, available now on YouTube. The viewership keeps going up. The subscriber amount keeps going up. We can't be more thankful for everybody's appreciation and help in joining the ride over on YouTube as make the new transition here, getting closer and closer to training camp. Within 2 weeks now till 2022, Cleveland Browns training camp opens up in Berea. As Garrett had mentioned, we're going to get to a couple things here today. I think at this point, it's any available defensive tackle who might still be on the market, it's going to find a way to get linked to the Cleveland Browns. We did this to Keem Hicks. We did this with Eddie Goldman. And Ndamukong Suh has obviously been a name that's been floating out there for a while. Fact or fiction kind of thing here. I think we're all of the understanding now that whatever is in the room currently, they are going to go into July 27th with it. Will they change their mind during training camp? That is, for me, it's certainly possible. There's no question about that. But I think, Garrett, with this, everybody keeps expecting this free agent domino veteran to come in here into this room. And it's not like they haven't had 4+ months to address this or to try to get this guy in here. In the room, you have Jordan Elliott, you have Sheldon Day, you have Taven Bryant, you have Tommy Togiai, you have Perrion Winfrey. Unless there is an injury or if they feel that, I'm sure they have a couple of players that in their minds they are expecting to step up within training camp at the defensive tackle position. And Ndamukong Suh has been a fantastic player in the NFL. The last few years, you're starting to show some age here. And I'm wondering if they're going to get into a situation, if they were interested in Ndamukong Suh, it'd be much like it was with Malik Jackson last year, Garrett, where you're chasing a player based on what he had done, and maybe you're getting a player that's closer to the end, and you're gonna. And I think this happened last year with Malik Jackson. Is you ended up playing a veteran, that you thought was going to be the guy for you, but he ended up maybe thwarting the growth process of some of the young guys that are in that room.
Yeah, and sometimes Mary Kay is coming out, and I talk to Mary Kay pretty regularly. She came out and talked about it. I think the report was from USA Today, and she said, no, the Browns don't have very much interest in Ndamukong Suh. They want to go with some guys that are a little bit younger, still have a little more upside. She continues to preach and talk about the fact that they like Jordan Elliott in there. You went and got a guy like Perrion Winfrey, who seems to be a young, hungry guy. Taven Bryant, you look at him, he's a guy that you brought in from Jacksonville to kind of anchor and can be a veteran in the presence in the room. And then you still have Sheldon Day and a couple other guys in there that are just gonna all really fight for that position. When I'm right now, I'm over at Walter Camp, walterfootball.com. They list the top 20 or so free agents, and they have Ndamukong Suh right now at number 15. He is the only one that's still kind of on the board in the top 20. He's 35 years old. So, he might have an outside chance to get into or a decent chance to get into the Hall of Fame, but he's not playing at a Hall of Fame level as we speak. You got a couple other guys that are on the list. Linval Joseph, D tackle. He's 33 right now for the Chargers. You still have guys out there that still need to be signed. Larry Ogunjobi, Maurice Hurst, the defensive tackle from the 49ers. He's 27. Corey Peters, another older defensive tackle for the Cardinals, is 34. And then we got a couple guys like Malik Jackson, who was with the Browns last year, but is still on the available market. And Star Lotulelei, the defensive tackle for the Bills, came out former first round pick of the Panthers. And I believe he played for Utah. I think he played in college. But if you listen to these names, there isn't really any huge names that jump out at you. And, if you're going to bring one of these guys in, I could understand if maybe you have a situation where one of your younger defensive tackles gets hurt and you're just kind of like, man, we want somebody that can get up to speed right now. Let's go ahead and get a guy in there to do it, and get in there and come in and kind of plug that hole quickly. For me, I wouldn't mind seeing Ndamukong Suh, but I will say this: if the Browns don't go out and get Ndamukong Suh, I'm not going to say he's the make or break reason as to why the Browns didn't perform well or perform up to snuff. I think that's just one of those things where the name is kind of big, and we always want bigger names. But I think they're ready to. I think they're ready to go ahead and give the youth movement a try.
If you look at the way they've built this room, the Andrew Berry regime is now coming off its third draft class. So the first draft class drafted Jordan Elliott, second draft class drafted Tommy Togiai, third draft class drafted Perrion Winfrey. All these players basically drafted in similar ranges to each other, all within the, I would say late 90s to I think about like 130 or so is where all these players were selected within an NFL draft. They went the Malik Jackson route last year. And the thing was, and part of it is the Browns were playing Malik and asking Malik Jackson to do things that maybe were, commensurate with his abilities. Malik Jackson has always had a reputation in the NFL as being somebody who was a solid pass rusher from the interior, not really a run stopper. We keep dancing these circles with the Browns for over the last few years about, where is this big run stuffing defensive tackle? And for a team that's, essentially predicated and built on athleticism and speed, a team that wants to get themselves in nickel packages and dime packages much more than they want to get themselves in a base, looking to go out to get this, veteran to be a part of, run stuffing. And again, Ndamukong Suh, the bloom is certainly off the rose as far as his playing abilities. And, anybody wants to highlight anything he maybe even did in Tampa recently, keep in mind he was playing with an incredible defensive line down there. And, he was maybe the fourth most dangerous player on the field at the defensive position anytime he took the field with the Bucs. So he's certainly chasing what used to be. They still, and as you alluded to with Mary Kay, they still talked highly of Jordan Elliott. Tommy Togiai, there was a couple of moments as a rookie who played sparingly, behind Malik Jackson, Malik McDowell. And then, of course, this year, Perrion Winfrey. And, it seems the Browns seem very high on him, brings a ton of energy. He brings the motor, everything you're looking for, for a player to step up within that room. I'm not saying that the Browns are not going to go through a couple of weeks of camp or maybe through, a preseason game and feel that they maybe need something else at that position. But, as each defensive tackle went off the board to go to other teams and, rumor maybe the Browns had interest or, this, that, and the other thing. I think this room is done for now, Garrett, unless they show very, very poorly in camp in Berea. This is the room they are taking to training camp the way it's currently constructed.
Yeah, I think so. And that's a big thing. And we want to educate the people out there. The way you got to build a roster in the NFL is, you can't always go out to eat, so to speak, right? We all got families. hey, sometimes, you like to go out to eat on vacation or there's a special occasion to celebrate with the family, or you haven't seen a buddy who come into town and his wife is here, you and your wife get with the other wife and the missus, and you guys get out there and do your thing and go out and have a good time and have a nice meal. But you can't go out to eat every single day, right? And if you did, it would kind of ruin the luster of the satisfaction of going out to eat. So it's just like sometimes you got to cook at home. Sometimes you got to get to some groceries, some staples, some eggs, bacon. Get some milk, a loaf of bread, peanut butter and jelly. It always works. And it's just the same way in terms of that when you're looking at the situation with free agency. You can't build your team all off free agency, just the same way you can't build it all off the draft. Sometimes you got to get guys that are later in the rounds. Sometimes you got to get free agents. Sometimes you got to get guys that you develop in-house that you could get to take those positions and do their thing. So I think it's really important to understand that you're not going to have an all-star at every position, and good teams need to find situations where they can go ahead and have guys step up and be guys that they cultivate inside the program to do their thing.
One defensive tackle drafted over the first 3 draft classes here between Jordan Elliott, Tommy Togiai, Perrion Winfrey, Sheldon Day still here. You went out and signed Taven Bryan in the offseason. It's pretty simple. Somebody step up. It's what it comes down to. They've invested pretty well in this group right now. It's time. There's no question about it. Togiai and certainly Jordan Elliott, at this point, they should be considered players that are competing for starting positions. Third-year defensive tackle, second-year defensive tackle. Improvement is needed. And, I think the Browns feel, going out and bringing in a veteran in hoping that there's maybe something left in the tank is, a counterproductive approach, as opposed to, guys that we had faith in, guys that we drafted. And we felt, eventually when their name was called and it was time for them to take a bigger piece of the pie as far as playing time, they'd be ready to go. So for Ndamukong, I don't see any way that one is going to happen. More coming here. The latest Locked On Browns. We'll get to players for training camp where, the opportunity is big and the importance of them taking that next step. Obviously, as we just, parlayed from Ndamukong into this, get to all that here just a second. Again, Garrett Bush, Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns. This episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questions? Is your vehicle an EX or an LX? Is it a V6? Is it a V6 turbo? And wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only manufacturer their warehouse happens to carry. You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. It's a family-owned business. It's been serving do-it-yourselfers for over 2 decades. Prices are reliably low and the same for every customer. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box, so they know that Garrett and I sent you their way. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com.
Welcome back to Locked On Browns podcast. G. Bush in the building, Jeff Lloyd in the building. We want to thank you guys. Really, really great at what we've been doing, and I thought it would be great to give you guys the metrics, man. Just alone on the channel right now, over 9,000 views in the last 48 hours. Our last video with JOK and the whole situation with Baker Mayfield and the number change possibility. We're over 2,600 views there as well. Shout out to you guys for going ahead and liking that and continue to support the content. Right now, we are pushing it in terms of how many people we got our subscribers. We said we wanted to get there by the end of training camp. We pushing it a little more now because I'll tell you what, we're already at 2,050, I believe. We're almost at 2,000. Yep, 2,050 followers. So we want to get to 2,500, maybe even 3,000 before the camp starts. Thank you guys for continuing to support us right now and making Locked On Browns the best podcast in the Locked On family. We appreciate you guys. Jeff, we talk about this, all the time, and I think we'll get to it more as camp goes along. We talked about the defensive tackle room, and with that being said, there were some comments about people thinking, "Hey, do you need to bring in an Ndamukong or somebody to kind of bolster that up front?" And that just goes to our next point. We're going to talk about a couple guys that we feel need to really have a good camp, have a great camp, and to step it up and have a make or break camp on the defensive side of the football. And when I look at it, I'm going to actually stay in that defensive line room. One of the guys that we talked about, and I think they have him, spot shadowed a little bit, and he came in with a bang, is Perrion Winfrey. I would love nothing more than to see Perrion Winfrey come in and be a disruptive force, be a guy that is a dude that refuses to be blocked, and keeping that same level of intensity that he had when he got drafted. He's a guy that when you look at him, he has all the requisite size, he has the hands, he has the ability to either rush or stop the run. Played at a really good program in Oklahoma, and you always know you got a defensive lineman that's a baller when they get with the single digits. When they give you the single digits, we talked over here. You don't get single digits for just being in your gap. You don't get the single digits for understanding the assignment. You get a single digit up front when you know how to get after you and you make plays out there. So Perrion Winfrey, we haven't heard much from him, and rightfully so. You're a rookie still. You still got a lot to be out here to progress and a lot to want and to do more. But I do love his attitude. I like the way he's fiery. I think he fits in with some of these other guys. And we always talk about it. You're going to be getting singled up, man. They might as well call this match.com. You always single. You always looking to date with a lineman. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have an opportunity to be up there because you got Jadeveon Clowney and you got Myles Garrett. You singled up there, so you got to mingle. So do your thing up there, big fella. Looking forward to seeing what you got. And if he can step up and be a guy that they find in the later rounds that had a earlier round grade on him, I think this defensive lineman could turn some heads.
This is the room, and the way we're talking about it. I'm not saying, and we're not trying to say that the Browns don't feel the room is important, but what they think is they want to get to the point where it can be more about having athletic players on the field. And, there's going to be certain teams probably where this defensive tackle room is an issue. Tennessee Titans not on the schedule, but run heavy teams is where this room, the way it's currently constructed, if people don't step up, it could be an issue. Steelers, we saw it last year. Najee Harris gave them issues at times with not having enough on the interior. Joe Mixon is certainly capable of that. A team like Tennessee Titans, if they were to come across the Browns this year with Derrick Henry, is that type of issue. But regardless, and the thing for them is why are we going out to sign someone when we've addressed this, and we've addressed it every year since we've been here? Jordan Elliott, it was tough last year because Malik McDowell fell into their lap. Signed Malik Jackson, and probably hurt the development of Jordan Elliott. Probably hurt a little development of Tommy Togiai in his rookie year as well. And of course now you bring in Perrion Winfrey, and no question about it, Perrion Winfrey has certainly put a mark on himself. You're that type of guy. You do a lot of talking. You're that kind of volatile type of personality. People are going to be, what do you got? I mean, can you back it up? It's the way it's going to work for Perrion Winfrey. But with the three of them, and you went with Winfrey. I'm going to go with Tommy Togiai. I think just the way it got constructed last year, and then ended up with McDowell, Jackson. They ended up playing those two the majority of the time, and it certainly hurt the growth process. Tommy Togiai started to play a little bit as the season went on. You saw some signs. But I think for Tommy Togiai, and this was key when he was coming out of Ohio State, a lot of people felt when he declared it was, he should have stayed for another year in Columbus and improved his game. Larry Johnson, of course, everybody knows all about the, legendary defensive line coach for the Buckeyes. And everybody felt, Tommy Togiai would have benefited from one more year there under Coach Larry Johnson. But for Tommy, I think the time is now. And I think just as much as maybe for Jordan Elliott and just as much for him, this is like I said earlier, it's prove it time. We brought you guys in here thinking that eventually it was going to be, you were going to get your opportunity. And as you said, look, you can't build an all-star team. You can't this isn't a Madden draft where you can put stars everywhere. The Browns, in some respects, still would like to hold on some money, still would like to be able to have some rollover cap available. So just going out and spending the money because you have it, what I'm saying, they're not going to be, like a 19-year-old who got a paycheck and, I'm saying, feeling great by Friday night, but broke as hell on Monday. It's just not the way this team operates. This is the way it's going to be. And, I don't see a player coming in here. I think they are massively, massively banking on players like Jordan Elliott, Tommy Togiai, and Perrion Winfrey taking a step. All three seem to be, players that could work together in certain, in certain packages, whether it's Elliott Togiai, whether it is Elliott Winfrey, whether it is Winfrey and Togiai. It's time for the young kids who have been drafted, brought in here to do some good things, to do that. And I think between, Elliott, Winfrey, and Togiai, I'm not saying all of a sudden we're going to talk about these players like they're Aaron Donald, but I think these players are going to do enough early on and down, early down situations, 1st and 10. We're going to get the opportunity, that they did their thing. And now we can start brought out, H. Winovich for a third defensive end. We can bring out an Alex Ryder and Isaiah Thomas so the Brown can get 2, 3, 4 edge players on the field in obvious passing situations as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's what we want to get to. That's where we eat. That's our thing. Stopping a run is not sexy, but it is a prerequisite to get to where you want to make your money. You earn your money on 3rd down, getting after the passer. And so to do that, you got to do the other things first. It is a prerequisite to stop the run. Then you get to eat. So anxious to see what is going to happen. And like I always say, Jeff, I always like to see young players turn into monsters, turn into guys that are really doing their thing in this league. And I think sometimes it's even more enjoyable from fans to see somebody go from the bottom to the top and work their way up in the system than it is to go out with free agency. So excited to see what those guys are going to do.
Yeah, there's no question. And, as much as it's great to have money and be active in free agency, active in the trade market, you want to see growth development of players that you basically put a premium on. And, the Browns, it's time for these guys. It is time for some of these young defensive tackles to start earning their keep, so to speak. Jeff Lloyd, Garrett Bush, your latest Locked On Browns. We're going to switch it up here, go to the offensive side of the ball here, talk about some players that we need some improvement from and the importance that 2022 training camp will be. From the people who invented healthy and tasty comes the latest gift to your taste buds. You've probably tried the amazing coconut brownie chunk Built Bar, but guess what? Your friends at Built have given coconut brownie chunk the Puffs treatment. That's right, the coconut brownie chunk Built Bar flavor you love in a deliciously chewy marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. It's like a fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness. But stop drooling and listen. They are good for you. They're low in calorie, low in sugar, high in protein, and they are all delicious. Coconut brownie chunk puffs are only here for a limited time. Go to Built.com now to make sure you do not miss out. They are going fast because they taste amazing. All Built bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. And it is also something that tastes good, but is good for you. The best part about Built Puffs is, of course, they taste amazing, but you can enjoy them guilt-free because they are actually good for you. They're the perfect treat. Perfect when you've got a craving, you need to satisfy your sweet tooth, or if you need a quick snack. They're an excellent source of protein. Delicious coconut, rich, sweet, brownie, creamy marshmallow. Stop fantasizing. Get to Built.com to order your box of coconut brownie chunk Built Puffs right now. Go to Built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Again, promo code LOCKED15.
Welcome back to Locked On Browns. Make sure you guys go out there and follow us on Twitter as well. We're at a little over 12,000 followers on Twitter. Let's go ahead and continue to keep preaching that, keep making sure that we're not only growing on YouTube, let's grow on all of the platforms. This is a reflection of you guys, man. And so I was so happy to see out of all of the Locked On brands across the nation, and those are countless numbers of brands from Major League Baseball, hockey, baseball, football, college sports, that we were doing our thing at number 7. And that just goes to show you how strong Cleveland fans are, how passionate Cleveland fans are about their teams and their Browns especially. So let's go ahead and show those guys that we are what we say we are, and that's the best Locked On podcast in the game right now. Continue to support that, and make sure you go ahead and download that as well wherever you download your podcast. We talked about defense. Let's get to offense a little bit. I think it's kind of different that we go through these names, and I'm going to give you a different name that we haven't heard so far. And this guy is David Njoku. When David Njoku got that big time deal, man, it was kind of like it was a lot of people that considered it a little bit too much money for him. And I've never been one of those guys who started to be like, well, G. Bush, you're overpaid. And I'm like, look, man, that's somebody else's money. I gladly spend Jimmy Haslam's money anywhere. Like if you want to take me to Olive Garden, I'll spend all his money in Olive Garden. Hey, gas is like $5. I'll go ahead and take that money too. But when I get the sentiment of him not being, he's getting paid as if he was a top 5, top 10 tight end, and you have not had that production that matched that. But I'm gonna tell you what, there's an opportunity this year, especially if Deshaun Watson plays this year and he plays sooner rather than later. He's going to have one of the opportunities to really raise his star in this league, to really be able to catch a lot of footballs and to do what tight ends that get paid that a lot of money to do. And that is to be pass catching threats, right? And he's not going to get paid. He's not going to be the next coming of Delaney Walker as a run blocker or Tony Gonzalez. That's not what his game is. He's improved in that area. But where I want to see more improvement, he'll make the spectacular catches, but the problem he has is the lapses in concentration when the ball hits him right in the hand and he drops it. Or he runs his route and he runs his route too shallow and he runs it before the sticks instead of getting past the sticks to move the chains in order to get a first down. Those are some of the things that we've seen lapses from David Njoku. And now that you've got that long-term security, you got the contract, you have secured the bag, and that bag is different. Now we got to see what you're going to do. Very big, very, very, very big, important offseason in camp for David Njoku.
The thing with David Njoku is it was always kind of a case of, what if there were more opportunities, or what if they find a way to feature him more? Because there were certainly times, throughout his first 5 years with this team that we saw, excellent play, saw a ton of potential. And then, you've seen things like, the willingness, the effort that he has put in to become a better blocker. I mean, when he first got here before the age of even 21, he was this raw athlete football-wise. You knew everything was there. The question was, when would it all come around as far as being a complete type of game? With the contract that he's gotten, certainly the pressure is on him, because now we can't play these what ifs anymore with David Njoku. This is now going, the opportunity. There's nothing blocking him. He is the true tight end number 1 for this team. He wasn't he's not going to be a piece of an offense that maybe had other players who were going to get more targets or other players who were more established. The target is now on him. He is now one of the higher paid tight ends in the NFL, and the expectation is to play like nothing less than that. So the opportunity for David is there, because if David does not put together a pretty solid statistical output, there's going to be some questions about how much money the Cleveland Browns did give to him. For me, I'm going to go with Nick Harris here. And it's not that Nick Harris hasn't earned this opportunity. He's going into now his 3rd season with the Cleveland Browns. Nick Harris has pretty much been the starting center for every single practice for his time that he has been here with the Browns. As we all know, J.C. Tretter didn't practice much. But J.C. Tretter is a guy that was adored by his other offensive linemen, an extremely intelligent player as far as making calls at the line. The respect that he has around the league, obviously by being NFL Players Association president. So for Nick Harris, this is a really, really difficult spot to jump into. You're not just becoming, the new center of this team. J.C. Tretter, Joe Bitonio had a fantastic relationship. Wyatt Teller has spoken about J.C. Tretter and all the things he's done for him as far as, working with the mental aspect of the game and trying to see things that, maybe you weren't, possible. You weren't sure if that was the way it was going to go down, using your brain to have more confidence within your physical play. So for Nick Harris to get in there and now become the starting center of this team, number one, you're replacing a guy who was a fantastic player for the Browns, and just continued to endure himself to his teammates by the fact that he was always playing injured. So Nick Harris, and I truly think he's ready for it. I truly think he's earned it. And the Browns did make the difficult decision to part with J.C. Tretter, understanding that Nick Harris, as the understudy, had basically done everything he possibly could to be ready for this job. But either way, it's the proof in the pudding type of thing, Garrett Bush. He's got to be ready to go because he's not just replacing a center that the Browns, a middling center. This guy was a vital part of that Browns offensive line.
Yeah, he'll be definitely watched with a very careful eye by lots of fans, because the center is the guy who makes all the calls. He's the guy to get people lined up. He's the guys that is in conjunction with the quarterback of making moves, audibling, all those good things. And it starts with the center, good snap, good hold, all that good stuff. And I think he played well in the spot shadows and the spot starts that he got. But it's different between you being the guy that comes in off the bench and spells somebody, with you being the focal point, the head of the spear of the offensive line. So we want to see what Nick Harris is going to do. We'll be watching him intently as training camp moves forward.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, he looked really good against Green Bay Packers. A game that was a short week, obviously. And here it was late in the season. So Nick Harris obviously came in with very, very fresh legs. Let's see if he can sustain it for 17 games. I think the Browns are pretty confident he can do it. I think we all are. But again, until you actually see something, you can't, just assume that it's going to go as smoothly as we all certainly hope. He is Garrett Bush, part of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, Monday through Friday, 11-1 on YouTube. Had Archie Griffin there yesterday. Old big mouth Leroy Horde throwing some compliments to Mr. Garrett Bush yesterday. And yes, Garrett's still smiling about that one. So yeah, he's going to run with that smile for a while.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let that breathe. Like, I'm gonna just ride this out to the weekend.
I think Garrett is actually having that stuff printed out so he can hand it out when he runs into people. So, but also Cleveland, the barbershop Saturday mornings, 9 to 12 on 92.3 The Fan. Make sure you're following at GBush91. The show itself at Locked On Browns. Follow back account. DMs are open. Me personally, Jeff Lloyd at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. Questions, ideas, whatever, DMs are open. You guys know. Send them on over here. Getting closer and closer to the beginning of training camp. Hopefully closer and closer to the ultimate news on what will be the future of the 2022 season for Deshaun Watson as far as availability for the Cleveland Browns. All stuff certainly monitoring here as we get closer to training camp. Appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen. Again, whether it's your favorite podcast platform, make sure you follow and subscribe to the show, or here now on YouTube. And the growth is it's been impressive here. I mean, it's almost 50 subscribers per day, if not more here. The amount of views. I've got 2 teenage daughters. So if some of these episodes, the amount of views is impacting them, I think we're doing something right here because teenagers are annoying. So there is that aspect to it. But again, we cannot be more appreciative of all the support you guys have been giving here as we take this next chapter here on Locked On Browns, just continuing to try and give you guys the best Cleveland Browns coverage we can day in, day out. All that being said, this has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on ELOB. Let's go Browns.